Okay, so variation functions. So this question says, if y varies directly as x and y is 12 when x is 8, find y when x is 14. So this directly is a clue that we're going to use the direct variation formula. So we need to use direct variation formula. So what do we know? So we're trying to find y. So we're going to call this y2, the values we need to find. And the values we know we'll label as 1. So if y varies directly, so y varies, so y is going to be on the numerator. Directly is x, so x will be on the denominator. And we're going to set both values equal to each other. So we're going to say y1 divided by x1, that has a constant k. So that has a constant k. And y2 divided by x2, that also has a constant k. So they're both equal to k. So we're going to make them equal to each other. So we're going to say that y1 divided by x1 is y2 divided by x2. And this is the direct variation formula. So we're going to substitute in the values that we know. So we have y1 is 12 and x1 is 8. And this is y2 we need to find, divided by x2 is 14. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 14. Okay, we could cross multiply. So if I did 14 multiplied by 12, I would have, this is divided by 8. That would simplify, and I just left with y2. And if I work out this value, I would have 21. So I can say when, and the question says find y when x is 14. So when x is 14, y is equal to 21. Okay, so we have if y varies jointly, so that is our clue, as x and z, find y when x is 9 and z is minus 3. If y is minus 50, when z is 5 and x is minus 10. So we're going to be using the joint variation formula. And y varies jointly. So y is going to vary jointly as x and z. So we're going to make these 1, value 1. And then we're going to look for what we need to find y. So we'll call that y2 and x2 and z2. And the values we know we'll say are the 1 values. So y1 is equal to y2 divided by x2 divided by z2. So now we're going to simply substitute in the values that we know. So y1 is minus 50. x1 is minus 10. And z is 5. y2 is we're needing to find. x2 is 9. And z2 is minus 3. So we can now multiply out these values. So this is minus 50 divided by minus 50. And this is y2 over minus 27. So I'm going to multiply by minus 27. So this will eliminate the term. So I'll have minus 27, okay, minus 50. over minus 50. And that's just going to be equal to y2. Now these I'll simplify out. So y2 is going to be minus 27. So the question says, find y when x is 9 and z is minus 3. So we can say when x is 9 and z is minus 3, y is minus 27. Okay, so we have if y varies inversely, so this time inverse variation, so we need to use the inverse variation formula. So it says if y varies inversely as x, so that's y over x, and y is minus 18 and x is 16, find x when y is 9. So the value we're going to find we'll call 2, and the ones we know we'll call 1. So in this case, y1, y2, the x values will switch places because it's inverse. Okay, so they've switched places. So now we're going to substitute in the values. So y1, we have minus 18, and this is divided by x2, which we don't know, and y2 is 9, and x1 is 16. So I'm going to cross multiply. So I'll have 16 multiplied by 18 minus 18, and I'll have 9 multiplied by x2. And that, okay, so now if we divide, multiply out 16 times minus 18, we will have minus 288. And if I divide by 9, so divide that by 9, I will have minus 32. So let's change that to 2. So we can say when y is equal to 9, x is equal to minus 32. And there's our answer. If a varies directly as b and varies inversely as c, find b when a is 8 and c is minus 3. If b equals 16 when c is 2 and a is 4. So because a varies directly as b and inversely as c, we are going to use what's called the combined variation formula. So this is combined variation. So first of all, we're going to set up our equations. So we'll say that a varies, and we're going to use a constant of k. So a varies directly as b and as inversely as c. So this is b1 and c1. And the same is going to apply for the second. So a2 is k, b2 and c2. So we're going to rearrange for k. So k is going to be a1 multiplied by c1 divided by b1. And over here, k is also going to be a2 c2 divided by b2. So because they're both the same, we can make these equations equal each other. So we can say that A1C1 over B1 is equal to A2C2 over B2. And we can substitute in the values. So let's see what we know. So it says find B, so we'll call that 2, when A is 8 and C is -3. And the values we already know, so B1, C1 and A1. So let's substitute in the values. So A1 is going to be 4, and that's multiplied by C1. And C1 is 2, and that's divided by B1, which is 16. So this is equal to A2, which is 8, C2, which is -3, and is divided by B2, which we don't know. So let's have a look. So I'm going to cross multiply. So I'll have B2, and if I do 4 times 2, that's 8, so B2 times 8 is -16 multiplied by -24. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8, so let's not write the B there, let's write the 2 there. So B2 is going to be equal to 16 divided by, so we divide by both sides by 8. Okay, it's 2, so B2 is -48. So I can say when, so we need to find, so it says find B when A is 8. So when A is 8 and C is -3, B is -48.